All right. This then explains the advanced state of scientific achievement we find in early Chaldea, particularly in mathematics and astronomy, which later knowledge gave rise to the famous astrology of the Chaldeans, the name, in fact, being synonymous with wisdom. The early Chaldean priests were genuine astronomers. They knew the accurate value of the solar year, divided the day into 24 hours and the circle into 360 degrees. Their months consisted of 30 days each. They knew the 12 signs of the zodiac and from its constellations developed their famous astrology. Yet the human faces in the zodiacal constellation show that the zodiac did not originate in Chaldea, nor Egypt, nor India, but with the earlier Adamites, for the faces depicted are pure Aryan, like those of the Anglo-Saxons of today. The priests of Egypt also had knowledge of the rudiments of astronomy and knew certain astronomical values, yet the existence of certain values connected with the precession of the equinoxes has shown to modern scholars that those peoples had rules and methods of calculation, yet did not know the principles that formed the basis of their calculations. And it is only too evident that the Egyptian, Chaldean, Indian, and Chinese astronomy is but inherited from the earlier Adamites. A definite statement concerning the Adamic origin of astronomy and mathematics is given by Josephus, the Jewish historian, in the Antiquities of the Jews. They, the Sethites, were also the inventors of that peculiar sort of wisdom which is concerned with the heavenly bodies and their order, and that their inventions might not be lost before they were sufficiently known. Upon Adam's prediction that the world was to be destroyed, they made two pillars, one in brick, one in stone. They inscribed their discoveries on them both, to exhibit their discoveries to mankind. Now, this, the pillar of stone, remains in the land of Serad, Egypt, into this day. The Egyptian tradition, preserved by the Copts of the Akbar Ezaman, states that the vision appeared to Surid 300 years before the flood, that the Great Pyramid was built as the result of this vision, and that it contained the wisdom and acquirements in the different arts and sciences, the science of arithmetic and geometry, that they might remain as records for the benefit of those who could afterwards comprehend them, the position of the stars and their cycles, together with the history and chronicle of the time past, of that which is to come, and every future event which would take place in Egypt. D. Davidson. This pillar in the land of Egypt is the Great Pyramid of Giza, built by an Adamic architect 300 years before the flood, from 2658 to 2628 BC. Refer to the coordinated chronology of Israel and Egypt by the author. Egyptian tradition tells us that the architect's name was Sisithurus or Sesthoros, which, when carefully analyzed, is a composition of Enoch and Noah. The Chinese sacred volume of the Shu King also affords confirmation that the line of Enoch and Noah were the originators of the science of astronomy. Regarding Fu He, who is the Chinese Noah, the Shu King states that he constructed astronomical tables, assigned figures to the heavenly bodies, and taught the science of their motions. Now, Genesis 5:21 to 24 tells us Enoch, or Hanok, Fenton translation, and Hanok lived until the age of 65 years when Methuselah was born to him, and Hanok walked with God after Methuselah had been born to him. And the whole lifetime of Hanok was 365 years, and Hanok walked with God, and he did not die, God having taken him to himself. It is worthy to note that the length of Enoch's life was 365 years, which is plus 1/4 the length of the solar year, expressed in years. This period is the ancient Phoenix cycle, four of those cycles, or 461 years, forming one Sothic cycle, ended in 1917 BC, 2083 AK, the year of the call of Abraham. This Sothic cycle had its origin in 622 AK, the year of Enoch's birth. The Book of Jubilees is one of the non-canonical books of the Bible, yet it contains valuable information concerning the first 2,500 years of Adamic history, ending about the time of Exodus from Egypt. In its fourth chapter, we read of Enoch or Hanok. He was the first one among the children of men that are born on the earth to learn writing and knowledge and wisdom. He wrote the signs of heaven according to the order of their months in a book, that the sons of men might know the time of year according to their separate months. He was the first to write a testimony, and he testified to the children of men concerning the generations of the earth, and explained the weeks of the jubilees, and made known to them the days of the years, and arranged the months, and explained the Sabbaths of the years as we made them known to him. And what was and what will be he saw in a vision of the night in a dream, and as it will happen to the children of men in their generations until the day of judgment. He saw and learned everything and wrote it as a testimony, and laid that testimony on the earth over all the children of men and for their generations. At the end of chapter 2, I have quoted from the Chambers Encyclopedia regarding the fact that the roots of most of our language can be traced to the Aryan parent stock, which had its home in Central Asia. From the same encyclopedia, I quoted here a paragraph from its article, Alphabet, to a French scholar, M. de Rogue, belongs the honor of having demonstrated the true origin of the alphabet. Several classical writers, including Plato, Diodorus, Plutarch, and Tacitus, had stated in general terms the belief or tradition of the ancient world that the Phoenicians had obtained the alphabet from Egypt, while in modern times not a few attempts had been vainly made to derive the several Phoenician letters from suitable hieroglyphic pictures. But it was only in 1859 that de Rouge pointed out that the prototypes of the Phoenician letters must be sought not in the hieroglyphics of the monuments, but in certain cursive hieratic or priestly characters so extremely ancient that they had fallen into disuse at the time of the Hebrew Exodus. This form of hieratic writing is known to us almost exclusively from a single manuscript, the Papyrus Prisci, as it is called, which was found in a tomb belonging to the 11th dynasty and is therefore much older than the Shepherd Kings. Wow, let me look at that. I'll show you guys here in a second. Professor Waddell, on page 5 of his Aryan Origin of the Alphabet, refers to Sir Flinders Petrie, who found in the royal tombs of Menes and his first dynasty at Abydos characters of the so-called Phoenician alphabet. This discovery proves first that the Egyptian hieroglyphic characters developed later in the Phoenician, and second, that the kings of the first Egyptian dynasties were of the Aryan race. It is possible, therefore, that in those early Phoenician characters we have the original alphabet developed by Enoch and given to him by divine inspiration. Plate number 5 gives us a comparative table of the Phoenician, Greek, Hebrew, and Latin alphabets taken from Chambers Encyclopedia. It is evident that this table that both the Greek and Latin are derived from the Phoenician. The Hebrew characters have been developed since the time of Christ. Hebrew is the language of the Jews, which the latter developed in Babylonian captivity. Israel before that spoke the Phoenician dialect and wrote the simpler Phoenician characters. The first letter of the Phoenician Aleph and is essentially the same as our Latin letter A, only the Phoenician character is lying on its side. It pictures the horns of a bull, Taurus, and conveys to us the fact that at the zero dating of Adamic chronology, the 22nd of September, 4000 BC, the fall equinox, nocturnal sign, lay midway between the horns of Taurus the bull. From the article Alphabet in the Encyclopedia Britannica, I quote the following passages. It is well known that most of the ancient nations ascribed a divine origin to their system of writing. The native Egyptian term for writing meant writing heavenly words. Professor Buchanan, in his The World and the Book, quotes a page 219 from Patriarchal Age by Smith. Yet the best authorities concur that ascribing the introduction of letters into Egypt to Thoth or Thet, the Hermes of Greek, and the Mercury of Latin mythology. It consequently becomes an important part of the inquiry to ascertain at what time this individual lived. As in Egyptian annals, we meet with several of that name. This seems to be a difficult task. It appears from a general view of the subject that in the earliest age of Egyptian history, or rather prior to the commencement of authentic history, a person of this name flourished from his great knowledge was supposed to be more than mortal. From this circumstance, when an individual in after ages appeared to surpass his contemporaries in wisdom, he was said to be inspired by the spirit of Thoth, or to be another incarnation of that deity. To Thoth, the Egyptians attributed the invention of letters, as there is reason to believe that Thoth is identical to what is that? Sesothoros or Sisters, and as the latter, as already stated, is a composite figure of Noah and Enoch, it appears then that Enoch is the inventor of writing and of astronomy, or rather to him was that knowledge revealed from God, as Genesis and the book of Jubilees tell us. And Enoch and Hanok was the first Phoenician, and his house, the Pahanok, were the Aryan Phoenicians. All the coordinated evidence of scripture, Babylonian, Egyptian, and Chinese traditions and history, the naming of the zodiacal constellations, the monuments of language, and the Great Pyramids confirm it.